Hello and welcome to this review of my Wey Tec MK06 modular keyboard. This keyboard is on loan to me together with several of its smaller brothers, which are in a slightly more disassembled state, but I figured it'd be cool to show them in this review anyway. The Wey keyboards are incredibly cool mechanical keyboards built around a modular platform, and the MK06 is one of the most high-spec ones. Wey Tec, who have them manufactured by GMK, sell whole offices full of them, but you can still buy them from a reseller, although I've been told it costs something like $500, not counting any extras. As the name implies, it's an extremely customizable platform with a huge amount of features and compatibility with just about everything under the sun, moon, and anything else out there in the high heavens. It's mostly intended for trading floors and control rooms, but honestly it can be programmed to do things you couldn't even think of if you were tripping balls off of half a lorry load of LSD. It's routed through this box thing, which has mouse, PS2, Sun, serial, miscellaneous, and a whole series of USB ports on it, and it can control up to 16 computers, local and remote. And the board itself has TCP/IP connections, TV video input, integrated speakers, integrated calculator, 3 320x240 TFT color displays, 24 macro keys, and 20 megabytes of internal USB accessible memory to remember the programming and configuration settings. Fuck me! Furthermore, it's got space for several extra modules, not included in the price, such as a touchpad, fingerprint reader, or custom keypads with custom-made keycaps. This particular keyboard has two such keypads, this red, yellow, and green one, and this second one, which looks rather much like it came off of a G80 9009, like the one I reviewed a long time ago, which is a cherry-made keyboard with a similar purpose. Unfortunately, this particular one is also unusable because its owner accidentally logged out of the user account. Yes, this keyboard has user accounts, while he was demonstrating it to some people at the Dutch keyboard meetup, and because no one knows the password, it's now basically locked out forever. The way it works is like this: when you reboot it, it first goes black, like this, then you get to see a whole bunch of data on the screen, like this, and then it lets out an ear-destroying screech, like this. Which, by the way, you can't adjust the volume of. And then when you do some hocus pocus with the log off button, it gives you this blue screen asking for your PIN. Of course, I tried all the simple ones, you know, like 1, 2, 3, 4 and 0, 0, 0, 0, but as it turns out, it's not necessarily a 4-letter code. It can go all the way across the screens. And it can take letters and symbols too, and it's probably even case sensitive, so basically unless the owner finds the code or some means of resetting it, it's fucked. Anyway, let's start off with the build quality of the keyboard. First off, although it does of course look absolutely enormous with its 151 or so keys and its huge height, actually it's only about the size of a Dell Bigfoot, although it's a lot taller. That's not to say that the Bigfoot isn't massive, because it is, but somehow the Wey looks bigger than it actually is. It's also not as weighty as it looks. At 1.6 kilos, it's also not much heavier than a Bigfoot, which is 1.4 kilos. Again, 1.6 kilos is nothing to scoff at, but considering the large volume it occupies, it's actually mostly just a lot of air inside a hollow plastic case. Really, apart from the back, which is pretty solid, the rest is somewhat flimsy. So it is built a bit like a cherry board, but it doesn't have any of those clips to fasten the case together. It uses good old-fashioned screws instead. It does have a very similar style of rubber-shod flip-out feet though. It's also got a huge amount of weird ports at the back here, including audio sockets, USB ports, a proprietary connector, and a PS2 port for connecting a mouse. Yes, you can use a mouse on the screens in the keyboard. And while I'm at it, here is the model sticker of the keyboard. Manufactured by GMK Electronic Design for Wey Electronic AG. Let's be honest though, it's undeniably a looker. With its metallic grey case, cool dual logo badges, huge amount of keycaps, including a bunch of very colourful ones, and of course its 3 goddamn colour screens, it's definitely a unique looking specimen. Its less upmarket cousins, the HK96, which has only one screen, and the EK2000, which has none, yeah, gotta love that random naming scheme, look similar, but they're nowhere near as imposing or impressive, so the MK06 is still definitely the king in my opinion. So one part of the look is of course the keycaps, which, being a GMK keyboard, are thick ABS double-shot keycaps with cherry mount. They look just like original Cherry keycaps because they were made using the same tooling which GMK bought off them, which is a good investment because they're completely awesome. Apart from the coloured keycaps here at the top, which are custom, as I mentioned, the normal keycaps are also special as they're a paler shade of white than normal Cherry keycaps, and many have secondary or even tertiary sublegends in blue, green or red on top and in front, which are pad printed by the way. A few even have windows for LEDs integrated into the switches below. They're excellent caps with beautifully bold and sharp lettering which will never wear off, being double shot, and being thick ABS to give a muted, bassy sound to the switches. Speaking of which, it uses Cherry MX clear switches, which at 65 grams to actuate are a heavier weighted version of Cherry MX brown switches. However, in contrast to many tactile switch designs in which the peak force is basically the same as the tactile force, the Cherry mechanism lets a switch with this weighting bottom out much stiffer, about 90 grams of force. The point of this is that the switch more or less tries to prevent you from bottoming out, or at least from bottoming out hard, which is why it's generally considered an ergo switch. This is a rather unique switch design because as far as I know, no other switch tries to actively prevent you from bottoming out. To my knowledge, even Cherry clone manufacturers like Kaiwa, Gateron, TTC, Wey-Tec, Gayote, etc. don't market a switch like this. So overall, it's a very interesting keyboard with loads of cool features and a ton of personality. They're somewhat rare and generally not that cheap and kinda hard to get working sometimes, but they do a lot of things that no other keyboard does. It's a very specialized keyboard that fills a highly specific niche. That's it for this review. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed it, and following is a typing demonstration of me typing on this keyboard.